exceptional on your loan, your pre-approval, this is where your realtor is going to come into play. Your realtor is negotiating on your behalf, and going back to why it's important to have a realtor is you want to have a realtor that understands the process, and they do have an established relationship, and sometimes even the seller understands down payment programs. And so when there is a clear understanding of how the importance of down payment programs, what the process is, there's a camaraderie. When a realtor understands down payment programs, that's going to make it or break it for you. So going back to, that should be one of the first questions that we should ask a realtor. Do you understand down payment program process? How many loans have you assisted with? How many families have you helped? That is going to be critical to how your loan will be accepted.
Thank you, Sarah, and team. As a counselor, I would suggest, that's why I say contact and interview three realtors and ask them all the questions. And then you will select one of them, and the one that you're comfortable with and trust with God. But last of all, must be knowledge and experience. Yes.
Don't quote me on this, but there was a gentleman that said they closed 17 loans in the last 12 months with the down payment assistance program. So I think that speaks to your question, right? Do realtors accept the offers of down payment assistance? We know for a fact they have 17 times, and I'm confident that they'll continue to accept those with the right representation. I had a question right there, right here. First, and I'll go to you after this young man.
Okay, just a simple question. Like, what would you suggest, like, the first step we would do to register for the assistance program? Is there like a link where we can like register for that?
That's a good question. The first step, always contact the housing counselor to take the education workshop. That you will get all the information during the workshop. The counselor will answer all the questions. The next step, after that, you contact the lender, the realtor, and apply for down payment assistance program. And from there, we will provide you the home buyer team. The home buyer team always include the housing counselor, always the first step. Second step, lender. Third is the realtor. And then when you're in the escrow, will be escrow, title, and home inspection, appraisal, and home insurance. And then you get the key. It's very easy, right? And then during the lender process, you have to apply for the down payment assistance program. You have to contact the city of Danville or city of Santa Ana, and you know their requirements.
I have a second question too. Real quick. So is there a requirement for like household income to get qualified for this assistance program? Like I live with my parents here, so we have 3 incomes in the family. Is there like a requirement?
Yes, it does. And you can visit the website city.gov first time home buyer. This is how I log into their website, just type in .gov city first time home buyer, they pop up with all the requirement, and all the Santa Ana down payment assistance program. I just put in the first home buyer, Santa Ana city, and then they come up with all the information. And all the program, yes, they have the income guideline. And depending on the program, if you want to apply, you can contact us. We will provide you the income for the household.
And there's also a graph right here that says first-time homebuyer program and the income limits. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different boxes in there that will give you the income limit. I've been looking at this gentleman right over there for the last 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Let's say you already have a pre-approval and your institution does not have a substantial homebuyer program. They will require you to get 3% down. Can you still get the home advantage of the program?
Yeah, I want to go back to the question that the young lady asked. So, education is so critical. You have 3 nonprofits here that offer homebuyers education. When you attend a homebuyers education, which a lot of agencies that provide, or city agencies that provide down payment programs, will require all individuals on the loan to complete a HUD-approved homebuyers education class. So if there's 3 individuals on the loan, those 3 individuals will be required to complete a HUD-approved homebuyers education class. It's required. Our next class is offered a week from today from 8:30 to 4:30. We'll be more than happy to provide you information, but that is required. The certificate is valid from 1 year of the date of completion. So if you attend today, your certificate will expire a year from today's date, and that will have your name. So I just want to emphasize the first step, education. As far as the question that the gentleman asked, can you repeat the question?
So if he has a pre-approval with a lender right now, but the lender doesn't accept, if it doesn't have the down payment assistance program, can he still take advantage of the down payment assistance program?
So I'm going to pass this to.
So it's going to highly depend on the lending institute that you're working with and their requirements as it pertains to down payment assistance. But from the city's perspective, we work with any reputable lender. So as long as you get them in contact with the city, we'll work with them to give our program guidelines and get the program approved so that institution does provide the assistance. So yeah, I would just start with having your lending institute just reach out to me or Dana over at the table, and we'll work with them through that process.
And before I go into this question over here, Wells Fargo is approved for the down payment assistance program. I work for Wells Fargo, so we have loan officers here that can help you. Save yourself the hassle.
Yes, I had a question. If you have a family member that has a reverse mortgage, and you use, let's say they leave us, right? And we purchase that home using the gift of equity. If we still live in that home,
I will try to.
I guess refinancing, obviously applying for a forward mortgage. Can we use that gift of equity, whatever equity is left in that property?
Sherlock, you know the answer to this. I'll let you speak to it. It's a great question.
Yes, you can use a gift of equity, definitely. Just depends on how much it is. But remember, with the down payment, are you thinking about utilizing the down payment assistance with that?
Well, I'm thinking of just using the gift of equity as the down payment. If we can do that.
Sure, we can do that. If you want to tie it into the down payment assistance program, though, remember it can't be more than 20% equity in that.
Some dog The dog cũng có ý kiến.
Okay.
We can absolutely pay off the lender who covers the reverse mortgage.
And then see what's left over and the equity and gotcha. Okay.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, if you are the first time home buyer, can you rent out your home? And the second is like...
Before I go to the second, let me have them answer the first.
Okay. Yeah, so in regards to our program, it needs to be owner occupied. So that means the owner needs to occupy the home that you're purchasing. So no, it wouldn't be able to be a rental.
Okay, and the second question is, like, I heard from some people that the down payment assistance is sometimes forgivable. Is that right or no?
That depends on the down payment assistance. The city of Garden Groves is not forgivable. It's a 0% interest loan, so it does eventually have to be paid back after that 30-year deferment period. But Santa Ana has some forgiveness components, so I would check that deal. So like multi-generational is in like an ADU in the back. Yeah, by all means, they can be household members, and even you could be renting out a room. It's just as long as the owner occupies that home, that's what the city cares about. No, not a duplex or a triplex. Yeah, it has to be a single family townhouse or a condo to qualify.
Are there more requirements for a young home buyer?
So for the city's down payment assistance program? So there's one requirement that I haven't spoken on. It's the debt to income ratio, right? So we run a 45% debt to income ratio, and really what that means is we're looking at the affordability of the home that you're purchasing to see if it qualifies, right? So we don't want to get home buyers into a situation where they're at high risk of default, right? They're spending over 50% of their income towards the house. That's not sustainable for most people, right? So we do require that the home buyers that are purchasing the home are below 45% debt to income, which means basically if you make $10,000 a month, your housing expense cannot exceed $4,500 a month, right? So that's just an easy example that I'm giving because it's easy numbers, but your income has to be within 45%, or your debt to income ratio needs to be below 45% to qualify for a program. And that runs pretty consistently with a traditional mortgage.
I have a question about the timeline, because I have a lot of clients that call me and say, we have a perfect home we want to buy, and I always ask them, are you qualified? And they say, no. I'm like, okay, well, that's the first step. So I'm going to send them to you guys first. Wells Fargo.
We appreciate it.
My question about the timing of the down payment assistance program. So let's say we're getting ready to put an offer. They have their approval from Wells Fargo. How long is it going to take them to be approved for the down payment assistance program?
Great question. So we run consistently with escrow. So as soon as I'm contacted with the loan package, as long as I have a complete loan package, I can close within that 30 days. But it's very imperative that the lending institute gets in touch with me, maybe right before they're about to close or open escrow, so that they can be informed of what I'm going to require. And if you haven't seen already, I have a lender procedures document on my table because of this very question, right? We want to make sure that we're closing in time of escrow. We don't want to be the ones holding up escrow. So as long as we have a complete lender packet from the start of escrow, we can close in 30 days.
Great, thank you.
And we will get Tim that lender packet. Wells Fargo, of course.
We talked about interviewing realtors, but what about interviewing loan officers? Is there a difference between talking to different loan officers? What should I be asking them or looking for?
I'm not going to answer that because it's unfair.
I know that we're here with Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo is a great partner. We've been collaborating with them. We're a city entity, a HUD approved counseling agency where we provide counseling that's required. It goes the same. It's fair to say to interview 3 loan officers, 3 realtors, 3 insurance agencies, which there's a lot of water cooler conversations with the insurance. Please keep abreast of what's happening with the insurance. It goes the same when we're going to be making a large financial purchase. You're not going to go to the first store and make that purchase. You're going to do your due diligence and see, okay, who has a better rate, who has, a sale and whatnot. Have 3 conversations. And you can have conversations with them. And as a HUD approved counseling agency, we're going to say the first question is, do you have down payment programs, specifically for first-time home buyers? And then compare 3 and compare your options. And at the end of the day, you'll compare to see which option will be better suited for the circumstance that you're to purchase a home.
Well, I always suggest my client to contact 3 lenders. But if you ask me, you have a list of lenders that you trust, then I will refer you that lenders may be very good. And they have a good program to provide a closing cost assistance. We don't favor anyone, but we provide you the good lender that provide closing cost assistance. I want to touch a little bit on the realtor question about the timeline. It depends on the down payment program. So, like City Gandro, they require 30-day escrow. City Santa Ana, 45-day escrow. Another program called MAC, 60 days. So, it depends on the program. You should ask, your realtor should ask the program what day, how many days they need for the escrow. So, you also, the buyer, need to know that too. So then when they make an offer, they work it out. And when the seller asks, of course, they have to disclose that you have the down payment assistance. That's what they require. Yes. Yes, sir.
Go ahead. I have a question about the down payment assistance. I know that it's not due for 30 years, but that 45% DTI, does that include the DPA, the down payment assistance, or is it just the mortgage?
Well, this is a good question. The mortgage have different DTI, and down payment, depending on the down payment assistance, they have different DTI. You have to contact the down payment assistance to find out.
Chin
Yeah, so our debt to income does not include the city's loan. Since it's deferred, there's no monthly payments required, there's no housing expense related to that. We look at the primary mortgage, the interest, taxes, insurance to determine, and any other like credit card, outstanding revolving loans. So that's where student loan debt, like their minimum payments for student loans every month would come into play. But it's the back end DTI with the primary housing expense included.
That's a great question. Thank you for that, Seth. It's really important. And I'm sure you all heard him say it's interest free as well for those 30 years. So interest free, and they're not holding that debt against you when you're qualified. That's a big advantage. There was a gentleman, and did you still have a question?
So I was going to ask also for the down payment. If you don't, let's say you don't qualify for the 20% down, you qualify for that. So I'm assuming that you should already have something to kind of make up, right? But let's say you end up with a PMI, right? And I've noticed, I've run numbers in the CLO, I can run CLO or not. So when you have a PMI, and I've been messing with it, I usually put 2% because I didn't want 2% at least. But 2% will give you like about like $400 PMI. But then the mortgage payment goes up to like $1,000 usually. So what's the big difference? Doesn't matter like how much you put down, like if it's 5%, 6%, then your PMI, your mortgage doesn't matter.
And that's a great question. Essentially, he's asking, putting more down, putting less down, how does it impact the mortgage?
Okay, so the city's loan is up to $110,000, and we try to get you to that 20% mark so that you don't have PMI, right? That's the goal. But if you do have PMI, there's always the option to refinance once you are at 20% equity in the home. So that's always what we suggest is don't let PMI scare you away necessarily. But our down payment assistance can get you closer to that 20% mark, hopefully, and so that you wouldn't have private mortgage insurance.
All right, guys. So we're past 12 o'clock, and I really appreciate all the engagement, the questions that you all have asked. It just shows that you're committed and you're interested in buying a home. If we can all get on a big school bus and just go around looking at open houses and I'll buy one, I would love that. But again, my name is Greg Ortega. I am with Wells Fargo. But thank you, Carol, Sarah, and Helen. If you have questions, we are here for you.